Hi.
We're here.
We're here. It's so weird because I know when I'm going to hear this next, it will be like 3 days post you having brain surgery. And it's weird to see you in like real form right here. But no, because it's like knowing what's going to happen the next time I hear it. Do you know what I mean? Not in like a sad way, but it's just weird. Like, okay, you're here right now. And then the next time I hear this,
I'll be in Boston recovering from brain surgery. Yeah.
That feels like
it doesn't feel
so
real.
Surreal.
Yeah. Feels pretty strange. We had my Bon Voyage party tonight.
Yeah, it was like Bon Voyage. Bon Voyage.
Bon Voyage.
Jordy and Hank and a permanent piece out Gus.
Yeah, my tumor. Like, we're getting rid of you for good.
Forever.
Yeah, you're leaving.
But it was a very nice night.
It was such a nice night. Just like hung in the backyard. Erica got a taco truck that she just found on the side of the road.
Basically.
But it was great. And got some Swedish candy, which we have right here.
Here, let me, for some ASMR.
Oh.
There's my ASMR. Oh, wait, funny. Should I eat a piece of candy?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
you have to eat a piece. Oh, God. Emma's awake.
I hear her asking for her stuffed animals. Okay.
Trying to see what I haven't tried.
Apple.
I know you really like those ones. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I like those as much.
Oh, Emma will like this sweet person.
Yeah, I got those for the kids.
Oh, yeah, these are good kid ones.
That was an interesting flavor.
Let me see. Oh, weird.
Yeah.
It's like a brown red.
Yeah. Not bad, but not great. The Swedish candy was a huge hit. Everyone loved it. So I
think there's something addicting
in it
about this specifically, because people who are not candy people just keep wanting more.
I also feel like it's because you don't know what you're going to get when you go there. Mm-hmm. It's like a different selection every time.
Right, it's exciting.
Yeah, like at CVS, if I go to get candy, I know what I'm going to get.
That's true. Here
it's like, oh, I hope they have the...
Yeah, and our favorite
thrill.
One is not here. And what you told me, Jordy, is that they are they ran out. The world ran
out of them. They're back ordered because TikTok blew up Swedish candy. And they just can't keep up with the demand.
There should be knockoff Bubs.
I bet you there are.
Yeah.
Well, they're still selling the packaged ones, but...
Not the same.
Not the same. But yeah. Anyways, tangent of Swedish candy. So yeah, did I go today and pick up a bunch of Swedish candy for the party?
You did.
Yes, I did. But of course.
It was a great addition. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird to have a party for going away for a not fun reason.
I know, it's so weird because if anyone passed by the house and was like, oh, what's this party for?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know what to say.
Yeah, oh, my best friend's moving to Boston for 3 months to do a first in human.
To be fair, I do say
trial.
things like this.
No, I know you do. But
I almost told the taco truck people, and then I was like, maybe I can just have a filter and not share that with everyone I meet.
It's funny because I feel like more of the people that you come across in your life know that I have brain cancer than the people in my own life.
I know.
I don't tell. Well, I mean, everyone in my inner circles know, obviously.
But just around the world.
But if I'm at the market or at the doctor's office. Well, at the doctor's office, they know. But I run into someone, I don't say anything.
When Alex and I were on the plane, Alex and I equally share with everyone we talk to.
Oh, she does as well.
I think I'm waiting for someone to ask, what are you doing in Philly? Because I don't know. I just I feel like I need people to experience.
Understand what you're going through.
Yeah, and witness my pain.
So funny. Just yeah, it's just a weird thing.
Yeah. And it's crazy because you have no idea where you're living.
Mm-mm. At least we have a hotel now for the first week.
You do.
Mm-hmm. That feels better.
Yeah, than no hotel.
Oh, we have a one-way ticket on Sunday and nowhere to stay.
Yeah.
It's just very, very last minute. But it'll be okay.
Yeah. Well,
what are you feeling most
well, I'm feeling sad that I'm not with you.
Yeah.
last time I was with you, not like I don't want any more night before surgeries because I don't want you to have surgery. But the night before your surgery, we hung out on your hospital bed.
I know.
We ate hot Cheetos and
apple juice
and candy, and there was something like special about that moment, and I feel sad that
you're gonna not be there for that moment.
Yeah, and like I'm sure you'll be fine, but I also feel sad that like you'll wake up from surgery and you won't have like your crew of people.
I won't have like a room full of people.
Yeah, it makes me very sad.
Yeah. Makes me sad too.
And like you're gonna have 3 people who love you.
Oh no, I'm gonna have like my mom and my mother-in-law, and Hank will be there with me. Like I'll have support.
Yeah, but it just felt like everyone rallied around.
Yeah, well, I feel like our house was just like full of people for the first like 6 weeks after I had surgery, and it will be a very different experience because.
What do you think that will be like?
I mean, in some ways, I think it'll be sad and lonely. And in some ways, I think it'll be easier because last time when I was recovering, it's like we didn't have daycare for Brody.
Right.
Like Hank he wasn't new at his job, but he hadn't been there that long. It was just like hard to manage. Right. I feel like everything. And I feel like as much as I want to be with Brody, if I can't like be like the mom that I normally am, right, then it's easier for me to just like
hold him.
I can't hold him for 6 weeks, and I just feel like I'll be able to like maybe recover a little faster and like be able to just like be in the patient role, right, for like a more extended period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways that's going to feel really like what you need. Yeah, because before you didn't like have the effects yet. Like you've gone through radiation and chemo. Like you're going to be getting more chemo in the infusion. Like your body has been through so much more this time that I think it's even more important that you have the time to recover.
Should we share about the biggest side effect of the treatment?
Yeah. Okay. So what's interesting because when I was reading, you were deciding between pen and Mass Gen, and I was reading through the pen informed consent, and I just had the thought of like either Mass Gen is lying or something's happening at Penn. Like people are getting really messed up, but we found out that the people at Penn are getting really messed up. So
and that the people at Mass Gen do get it, but not to the same degree.
Right. So with the infusion, I mean, so basically it's like they're putting these cells surrounding into your cerebrospinal fluid. Yes. And because of that, I guess when it like interacts, I don't actually know why.
No, it's actually, I don't think it matters where you put it. It's right. It's actually I think it's the fact that you are like suppressing the immune system and then adding these like supercharged like fighter cells into your system. Like they like attack your system, you know? Right. So it's like they're attacking the tumor, but like they're also like when something gets attacked in your body, your body responds. Yeah. And so like you get really high fevers, and like they said like most people get neurotoxicity, which is like real intense sleepiness, or like not knowing
may not know
who
your name
you are or where you are, or
that you have brain cancer.
Yeah, like I could just be like super disoriented. So like I probably won't remember any of it, but Hank will remember it, and it might be a little scary and traumatizing.
And like I wish I was there.
I know.
To like support him through it too.
Yeah.
Just to like bounce things off.
I hope he takes videos of me because like I'm so curious. I know, same. Right? Like I mean I'm sure he'll send you videos.
Or like I'll FaceTime you. Yeah. But I just like want him to be able to talk to someone as it's happening. Yeah. And I'm sure it's probably, even though you know it's short-lived, I'm sure it's probably really frightening, and like you probably doubt whether or not you like will come out from it.
I like don't have that thought.
No. I know that. No, I'm saying in the moment for
he
Hank.
Might have that thought. Oh, for sure.
Like if he just sees that you're like so unlike you that it might be hard to imagine like how you're going to come out of it. Yeah. But yeah, it's like 3 days. Yeah. 2 to 3 days, right? Is that what they said?
Yeah. And like everyone's fully recovered.
Yeah. And no one went to the ICU.
Mm-mm. No. So, I mean, like, everyone did well. However, we don't know how the person with the chemo did.
Yeah, they didn't. Mm-mm. Well, I guess they didn't specify.
Well, because I think they, like, just did it. So, like, I don't even know.
Oh.
Like, I'm the second person to do this version of the trial. So.
But I thought you think that the person hadn't done it yet?
I don't know. We didn't ask details.
Mm.
I still can. I don't know if I want to.
Like, probably not at this point.
Like, what's the point?
Because it's, like, literally days before. Yeah. I mean, or, like, weeks before. But, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty wild to be patient number 6 in a trial.
It's, like, really cool and also terrifying.
Yeah. At the same time.
But from what we've seen so far, those are the side effects. Like,
right.
And the outcome, we don't know. Like, it could be really, really great.
Well, for everyone, the tumor shrinks.
And for most people, it comes back. But that's why they're trying to tweak this and perfect it and figure out, like, how do we make this more sustainable and last longer?
Right.
But yeah, it's just, like, going to be a wild ride. And I've never really, like, been away from home.
I know. I mean, because when you went to college...
I went away for 1 year, and I was, like, pretty sad.
And I was,
like, in Santa Cruz.
It was, like, an hour flight.
Hour flight home.
This is, like, 6.5 of those.
Yeah, I know. Like, that's really weird.
Yeah, how does it feel to, like, be away from home?
I don't know.
You haven't even had time. Like, that's, like, the last thing on your mind to process. Oh, the gummy bears? Yeah, I don't love them.
Yeah. They're, like, fine.
Okay, so what were we saying? You're going to be away from home. You haven't really processed that part. But that's, like, fair. I mean, I think I have, because I'm just like, oh my God, it's when you fly and then there's that. It's like a 10-hour journey or like more.
A whole fucking day.
Like, if you were in Seattle, it'd be, like, so easy.
I know.
And they have Swedish fish up there. Swedish candy.
I was like, I knew you were going to say that too.
You did?
I knew you were going to talk about the fact that they have Swedish candy because they don't have any in Boston.
They don't. We both looked.
Yeah, we looked, sadly. It's probably for the best. This is my bon voyage to Swedish candy as well, because I should not be eating it. Well, it's just not
fair that you can't eat it.
But I'm going to have my tumor taken out, so I'm going to eat some and then...
I mean, yeah, that's what we did before.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you put the bagged candy in here? Oh.
Are you upset about that?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they're very hard. They're like stale. I thought it was fresh.
What?
I was expecting fresh candy.
You already ate some of those today. You didn't complain about them.
I did in my head.
So the bagged ones are stale.
This bagged one is stale. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
So sorry.
So you so should be. Okay. Anything else?
What am I nervous about? I didn't really like the one I just ate. No, I'm just pretty sad to leave Brody.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, for sure didn't plan this well. At all.
But it's so hard because you didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
didn't know. But once I got on the plane, I was like, shit, I should have just stayed in Boston. Like, everyone else would have been really sad about it, and I would have felt okay.
I know.
Yeah.
And, like, you deserve to have not come home. But then we wouldn't be talking.
I know. You're right. I wouldn't have had my bon voyage party. I wouldn't be eating Swedish candy. I wouldn't have been getting cuddles from my baby.
Yeah.
Like, all of that is true.
But it makes it, like, 30 times harder.
Right. I'm just like, how am I supposed to
leave?
Tell him that we're leaving for... I mean, he doesn't know what 3 months is.
Right.
Thankfully.
He only knows what, like, 3 days is.
Like, I don't even think he knows.
Yeah.
Like, he just knows, like, yesterday.
Right. And tomorrow.
And today. Like, that's it. Which is good.
Yeah.
But I know what 3 months is And that's like a long time. Like I was like, the next time I see your baby, he's gonna be crawling.
I know, that really freaked me out.
And like the next time I see Brody, he'll probably be the same.
He'll probably be the same.
Hopefully over wheels on the bus.
Hopefully, but probably not. Yeah, like I was like, when you saw Ryan today, I'm like, oh my God, he's, in little baby months, he's gonna see.
No, baby months is like
really.
Yeah, like that's like a lot of months.
It is.
These are the ones you liked, right? These squishy square ones.
So I guess like
you didn't really like them.
I think they're cool.
In what way?
Every part of it, but I don't like. I would much rather have Bubs. It was like given the candy selection.
Cool. What's cool about it? Every part of it.
The fluffiness, the texture.
Yeah, like I think they are cool.
It's like a vanilla taste.
Yeah.
If someone's gonna be like, listen to this and be like, okay, cool, we get it. Like we understand.
Like candy.
Yeah, like can you move on?
You guys are 32 years old.
Yeah.
This is really
31.
Okay, whatever.
And you hear like our chewing in the background. ASMR.
I don't really like understand it. Like some people.
Oh, I don't either.
I wonder how people with misophonia like
probably
feel about ASMR.
Cannot stand that, I imagine.
Yeah, it's tough. That's like a whole genre.
I know.
Like out to get them.
It really feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just realizing like definitely shouldn't have come home. That's the takeaway.
And I'm like, yay, you came home.
I know. And I'm like literally like Hank and I are on the plane and I'm like,
what did Hank say?
I'm like, he got it. He was just like, yeah, like I feel you. Like this is really hard.
We got our nails done.
We did. We got our nails done. We got a pedicure that for some reason took 90 minutes yesterday. We were planning to get a manicure and a pedicure. We couldn't. We didn't have enough time. Ran out of time. So today's was good. We made up for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm glad I got to come home and like do all the things and see everybody. But like, yes.
But you're really wishing you didn't.
I'm just wishing I didn't. Just like from selfishly wanting to not have to like say bye again to everyone. Because now it's bye for like a while. Well, not really for you because I'm going to see you in like 2 weeks.
I know. But it still feels like like so much is going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're going to go to Colorado.
Yeah.
You're going to like have a whole trip. So
well,
I wouldn't really have like seen you that weekend anyways.
Correct.
So I guess that's like, I'll think about that.
Right. Like I wasn't going to see you
weren't going to be here anyways. And then
I'll see you.
And then you'll come out. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's just like the idea that like I won't see some people for like a really long time.
Right.
Yeah. And it's like not that long. Like 3 months isn't that long, but it's long.
I think it's like given like the circumstances and the reasons why 3 months feels even that much longer.
Yeah. And it's like I just feel like every Wednesday we like
I know. Oh my gosh.
With our friends.
So our friend said to us as we were leaving, like, I'll see you Wednesday. And then like my heart dropped because it's going to feel so weird without you. And usually we record afterwards, like everyone goes home and then it's just me and you recording. And then there will be no you and me for 3 months.
Recording.
I
know.
Yeah, it's going to be really sad.
I know.
Oh, I already miss you.
Oh, no.
You're like, yeah, this is why I did not want to come home.
Exactly. Like, why did you want to do this again?
I don't know. Just because I love to torture myself.
I should have just said bye to you at the airport.
No, bye. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready then.
Apparently I was. I just feel sad about it, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't really love goodbyes. Who does? Probably no one.
No.
Like, do you remember, like, a week leading up to the end of camp? Like, so camp was, like, almost 4 weeks. 3.5 weeks, I think. Like, we would spend a whole week being sad that camp was ending.
I know, you're right. And then the last night we were, like, bawling
our eyes out, like
the world was going to end.
We were mourning someone. And it was just, like, the end of camp.
And then we had to have, like, a tradition. Like, every year we had to go eat at the same place.
Yes. Like, we were really intense about it. And I'm just, like, I get that. Like, it makes sense. That's how I feel. I'm like, I'm, like, building up to, like,
I know.
leave camp. Like, this is
which
camp.
Is like the worst because we cried so much.
Yeah, like this is camp. Like my life is camp.
And then you have
and then I have to like go to like a shitty, I don't know, boarding school or something where they like give you craniotomies. It
sounds like the worst kind of
cell infusions.
Oh my god. Worst kind of
grateful for this medicine, grateful to be a part of the trial.
Yeah,
please know that. But yeah, I'm like feeling that anticipation of like,
for sure.
Yeah, and I just like don't wanna. I just want to lay in my bed.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've done the last couple of days. I mean, I've like gone and done stuff, but like I like get up in the morning and I like get Brody ready, goes to school, and then I'm like, I think I'm gonna like lay back down because like
I know, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, when everyone's
what
like,
makes it harder now?
What can I do to help you? And I'm like, I literally don't know. Like nothing.
Yeah. What makes it harder now to do things? Like these few days?
Oh, it's more like I just like don't want to do any of the things that I need to do because then that means that it's real and it's happening. I know that that's true regardless of if I do the things.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm like, oh, if I just like lay in bed, then like everything's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's not. Nothing's normal.
Like literally nothing.
No. So I just have to, like, I will pack eventually.
You haven't packed at all?
No. Not even slightly.
Yeah. I know you're like, I just like don't need that much stuff, which
I mean, I don't.
It's true, but yeah.
Because also like Hank's going to come home in like 2 weeks.
Right.
So he can always like bring more stuff for me. But I'm just like, it's summer. It's hot. I'm going to be like laying in bed, recovering.
Yeah.
And then like laying in a hospital bed, like not feeling
well. I know.
well.
It's so weird. Like to pack up.
What do I need? Like fancy clothes for this?
No, but you need fuzzy socks.
Sure. Like I can.
And like a nice blanket. You should bring a blanket.
I think I'll probably like buy one there.
Oh.
I don't think I'm going to like bring my own blanket.
Okay, you need a blanket.
Yeah, I know.
You need like a nice pillow.
I told you my idea for my TikTok video.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you want to rate
my cancer blanket.
Yeah. That's funny. You should do that.
Your mom's would be like number one.
That's nice.
The blue and white one. I love that one.
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Okay, but you need a nice pillow.
Yeah.
You need a cozy blanket.
Yeah.
You need good socks.
I do have good socks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Nicole actually got me socks that say Tough Cookie on them.
That's cute.
Yeah, it was really cute.
Okay, so that's good. I was gonna say a hair tie, but you don't need a hair tie.
I don't. But that'll be better because last time you had to like bathe me and like comb out my rat's nest.
It was a little difficult to comb out your hair.
Yeah. Look at Derby.
He's like, please let me in.
Yeah, it was really challenging. So I think it's better to not have hair. But yeah, I'm just feeling sad. I'm feeling sad too. I'm gonna like miss.
Well, this is why we're on a grief podcast.
Life.
Because things are griefy.
Yeah, they are. Like I was just thinking about like, oh, like I'm gonna like miss like summer. Like I'm gonna come back and like it won't be summer.
You're right.
Anymore.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
Because like I had a thought before all this happened that we were gonna go like on a Wednesday. We were gonna go to the beach. Like we can still do that, but like you can't really like get your head wet for a while.
Yeah, it's like not the same really.
Yeah, and I had thought that and now I feel sad.
I know. I was like, oh, like I would love to go to the beach this summer, you know, like that sounds really fun. The kids and whatever. And now I'm just like, oh, like, yeah, I can't do that. Cause like,
okay, now I'm dreaming of our next
vacation.
Next
Yeah. In Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah, or Cape Cod.
Yeah. We're going to really just like take over the East Coast.
We are.
We're going to live it up on the East Coast. It's just wild to think that
I know. I lived on the East Coast.
I know.
And now you're leaving.
See, I kind of feel like this is, I don't want to be mean, but I kind of feel like this is payback for you like living away from me for 10 years.
Wow. Although
like I had to come visit you like a lot.
I know.
So like all those times I came to visit you, like now you're gonna have to come visit me. And like I'm really sorry that the circumstances are like crappy and not as fun.
Yeah.
When I would come visit you, we'd have a great time.
Make Jello shots.
Yeah, like it was really different vibes than my trip that you're gonna come on. But
well, I did visit you in Santa Cruz, but that was different.
You did. It was also like a drive.
Yeah.
Not a plane ride.
I drove
Hank.
Your husband.
You did.
And you guys were not dating.
We were not.
We
weren't even like close friends at that point.
It was so random.
Yeah, I was close with Eric, but not with Hank.
Yeah.
Yeah. So crazy.
Okay,
so that's the...
We'll give more updates.
Latest. Yeah, we'll give updates like at the beginning of our episodes. Yep. We're still going to plan to record a couple episodes, and
we have a lot.
We have a lot that we have already recorded. So sometimes you'll like hear an episode that was recorded a little while ago, but the update will be in real time because we haven't filmed like the intro and the outro for the episode maybe. So we'll give you updates as I go along, and I'll like keep posting stuff on social media probably at some point. I haven't done that in a little bit, but
yeah, people want to know how you're doing.
Yeah, just been a little busy. Erica will update you on my meal train and GoFundMe.
Some important updates will be up on there.
Some important things, yeah, but
we're in a very griefy mood, but that is also fitting given who we're talking to today. Mm-hmm. And that is Debi Frankle, who was your clinical supervisor.
She was. When I graduated from grad school, Debi and her husband, Mark, were the first supervisors that I ever had. And I worked for them for like 3 years. And I learned so much working with them, like not just in terms of like my clinical skills, but I just feel like just life skills. And I just felt like they were the warmest, nicest people, and they genuinely like wanted to just make people better clinicians, and they're grief specialists, funnily enough. Yeah. And so like I got a lot of training in like grief work, and I worked with a lot of grievers while I was working in their private practice. And I also worked, and I think we may touch on this in the episode, I can't remember, but we worked at this like treatment center that they were contracted with, and we actually had like a lot of deaths when I worked there, and it was like really heavy and hard. And I just remember personally Debi and Mark really helping me sort of navigate grief, like my own grief in losing these clients, while also helping the other members of like the program there like navigate their own grief. It was like I was new, like fresh out of
so much for a learning clinician.
Much. Yeah, like I was just fresh out of grad school, and like I didn't have that many hours under my belt, and I just feel like when I left them there, I was like a different clinician than I
mean, she's just so been. Wonderful and so sweet, best. And you could tell that she loves teaching.
She loves teaching, and like just I feel like she like just brings her lived experience, and then like obviously her years and years of clinical expertise into the room, like with whoever she's with, whether it's like your her student, or you're working with her as a therapist, or she's your supervisor. Like I just remember one of the questions she would always ask me, like every time we would meet for supervision, she'd be like, how's your heart and soul today? Aww. And I was like, that's such a like lovely question. Like she just always wanted to see like how we were genuinely doing. It wasn't like, okay, like let's get right into work. Right. You know, it was like she cared about you as a person. And
well, I could feel that throughout. Like,
I mean, she literally shows up. She brought us like baskets of like fruit and citrus and lavender and some herbs from her garden. And I was just
that was so sweet.
It was so nice. She just came with like tons of goodies
from her garden.
Yeah, it was just really sweet. And she just like, you'll like hear it in her voice, but she's just such a lovely, kind, warm person. And she's been through a lot of hard things in her life, and I feel like she's just been able to take her experience and do so much good with it. Like I said to her in person, and maybe even on the podcast, she's still like, anytime I'm working with like a very complex grief case, like she's the first person I like think about. And if I am not able to take on a case, she's the first person I refer to. And that just like says a lot, you know, that like, I mean, I'm how many years out from working there, and she's still like my go-to resource. And so we knew we wanted to have her on here, and
I mean, it's really cool too, because I feel like in this episode, it's a little bit different because she's an expert in grief. Yep. And so I think people who are listening will also learn a lot around the different phases of grief and what people used to be talking around the old stages of grief, which aren't really a thing anymore. And I learned a lot also just being in there, and just felt like grief persists through everything. And so therefore, like, we're always touched by it all the time. And it just makes you think about grief in a different way.
It does. And I think it's like so fitting that now we have this podcast called Grief Street, because it's just funny, because when I first started working for her, I had never really experienced like real true grief, or what I thought was real true grief. Right. And then in working with her, I realized that like there's grief in everything, and it's just like this universal commonality that we all share. And it helps you connect with people, and definitely helped me connect with my clients, and now with everyone who's listening. You know, I think like everybody can relate. And so we just want to thank Debi for coming on and giving us some of her time. She's a very busy lady. She's teaching courses at Pepperdine, and she's seeing her own caseload. She's supervising other clinicians. She has her own private practice, and she has all of these like online courses where you can like, you know, when you're a clinician, you need to continuously, you know, stay educated and take new courses and things like that. And so she provides all these courses for clinicians so that they can learn how to do what she does and work with grievers. And feel confident in that. And so we were just grateful that she had some time to spare with us.
Yep.
So we hope you like the episode, and we hope you like the episode. And
enjoy
Debi Frankle. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Debi.
I'm so excited to be here with both of you.
I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to Grief Street, a street you know well.
I do know that well.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just a little backstory for how Debi and I know each other. When I was getting my hours as an associate marriage and family therapist, one of my first jobs right out of grad school was working with Debi and her husband at their private practice, and working at this treatment center as well, that we were like giving services, contracting services for the treatment center. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yes. So you were my supervisor.
Yep.
And I was so lucky to work with you, because I learned so much from you, and who knew how valuable what I learned would be.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I didn't know when Jordy would tell me that she was working with you and with grief, I'm like, grief's not relevant to me. And so I didn't really think too much of it until I got into my own baby loss, and then joined your Facebook group. I mean, we'll learn more about you, but it's just kind of ironic how you think grief doesn't apply to me and then it applies to literally everyone.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and that's how I got started, is because, you know, grief didn't really pop its head up.
I didn't see grief as obviously until my mom died my last semester in grad school.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then everything blew up, and she was diagnosed with liver cancer and died 2 weeks later.
Wow. Oh my gosh. What were you studying in grad school at the time?
I was just finishing my MFT, the Ed Psych program over at CSUN.
Okay.
And I was working at Valley Trauma Center, which is now Strength United.
Okay.
I got to actually be there when Johanna Gallers first opened the place, and I loved that. And I was good at it. And my thesis was on working with kids who have been sexually abused. And then my mom died.
Wow.
And then I started seeing grief everywhere. I was also working in a lock psych unit, actually a freestanding psych hospital. It took me 13 years to escape from there.
Oh.
But I started seeing grief in, when I was doing biopsychosocials, where the woman who was psychotic and thought that she was 4 years old and she was in her mid 70s. And when I was able to find one of her brothers to get a history, was like, oh, well, it made so much sense of why she thought she was 4, because when she was 5, their mom died.
Yeah.
And this was in the mid to late 1920s.
Wow.
And so, as was usual, the kids went into orphanages. She was the only girl. Her 4 brothers went into another orphanage. And I was like, well,
yeah, this makes so much sense.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we want to call it pathological grief. It's like, I don't think that's pathology. I don't think that's pathological. That makes actually a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So you started seeing like grief show up, and it sounds like it even improved your ability to conceptualize cases once you found out about the grief.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great way to say that. Is I think grief is underneath everything that our clients bring to us. It is always there. There's always loss, transition, and we have a whole bunch of contradictory thoughts and feelings about it. And then we live in societies that we don't deal well with that because it's uncomfortable and it's awkward. And so we don't talk about it and we change it. And by the way, I really, really love your, I listened to all 3 of your Don't Say That. Because people automatically say,
because they're so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable and they don't know what to say and they're well-meaning, you know?
Exactly. Well, I think that's what is tricky about it is because it comes from well-meaning people. So we accept it and then think we're crazy because everybody else seems to be okay, but I'm not.
Yep.
It's like, actually everybody else is not okay, but we have learned over and over and over and over again to pretend like we are. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. When I started working with you, I hadn't really experienced any like close grief in my life or things that I would have identified as grief at the time.
Right. And I think is such a good is things we identify as grief.
But then like as I started working with you and like learning about how you work with your clients and conceptualize cases from like this grief lens, I feel like I started to see grief everywhere too.
Yeah.
And that it was in everything. It's not just death or like the end of a relationship. It's everywhere. It's like you were saying, inescapable. And we're all going to experience it at some point. And yet we're so uncomfortable talking about it. Yeah. But it's inevitable. It's
absolutely
this like very strange dynamic.
It is.
I was curious. You said that you were in grad school studying educational psychology. Was grief like ever included in any of the courses that you took?
No. I'm assuming no.
Okay. I assume no. And I wanted to ask because it wasn't included in any of the courses that I took either.
Several years later.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So like this wasn't something that I was taught in school. Like it's the only reason that I feel like that I got confident working with grievers was because I happened to intern with you and Mark. And so I just think
my whole mission.
That's your mission is to like make better grief informed.
Especially as many helping professionals as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you get into then opening an entire practice filled with grief?
You know, I consciously, I was in my own therapy, which was really helpful. Mostly, although my therapist, who I was with for 10 years, and I loved that man, but he was going by the 5 stages of grief. And he would say, you know, Deb, it's going to take as long as it's going to take. And it's just, you know, takes time and you have to go through all those stages. And I'm like, well, how the hell do I get through that fast? Come on. Let's go. You know, because
get me to end of stage 5 tomorrow.
Because it feels like it's linear, right? And there's the assumption is over time you just seem to go through these, and it's like, no, they were set up by Kubler-Ross because she was interviewing people who were terminally ill, which is different. Yeah. So I sought other trainings, and that really helped kind of formulate and give me a lot more education and different ways of being able to look at grief. And then just started applying that. I had gone and gotten some training over at Grief Recovery Institute. I worked for them for many years. I was affiliated with them for about 19 years. Wow. I left in 2012 because it was like, you know what, this is not the only way to be able to help grievers, right? There's some good concepts that are some of the foundation of how I work, but there's so many different ways of being able to help grievers. So it just kind of grew. It just sort of grew. Now I teach courses. I'm really, really excited. I've got a 6-month monthly course now.
Wow. That's so cool.
That frankly, every time I open up a new module, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Moly. But there's just so much. And I think the concept of grief, if I look at the resources that are available now, as opposed to 10 years ago, it's exponential versus 30 years ago when I first started, when there was like half of a bookshelf, maybe, of grief books, maybe. And now, there's whole entire sections.
Yeah. Why do you think that is, that we're more grief aware now than 30 years ago?
I think we're talking about it more. I think also during the pandemic, I was doing in-person trainings for a long time. In 2018, I had contacted somebody and said, okay, can you teach me how to be able to present this information online?
Wow. It's funny.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I grew, Jordy, you and I have talked about this a lot. We grew the practice because there wasn't anybody else, therapist doing grief.
Yeah.
In fact, I had somebody who came up to me during a networking meeting in Camp and said, so you know what? I noticed, you have grief in your title of your center, and you may want to take that out.
Wow.
You're going to scare people.
Wow.
Honestly, she said that to me.
And that's another clinician.
There was another clinician, and I have to say, I bit my tongue. I decided not to tell her, seriously, because we actually have a waiting list, and it's the reason why people are coming.
Exactly.
Right. Like that's why you need grief in the title. People are seeking it out.
Exactly. And we had a lot of therapists referring to us
for that reason,
for grief, who would say, I don't do grief.
Yes.
I'm going to refer to you.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, you're stupid.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But really, you need to learn this.
Yes.
And then the pandemic came.
Yeah.
And then I was so full with doing trainings for at least a couple of years with therapists going,
this is relevant.
This is so relevant.
Such a parallel process of our own grief and our clients' grief.
Yes.
So that I think really, in the last 4 years, it's grown even more with people with, therapists.
Because that inescapable piece.
Great. Yeah.
Right. It's like, because so many people couldn't escape from it. It was like, now I have to pay attention.
Now you really have to deal with it. Yeah.
So many losses. Like I think about all the kids that were in school at that time, like in elementary school or graduating high school and didn't get to go to graduation, and like all of those secondary losses from obviously this much larger piece of just like being isolated from society.
Yeah.
I think it's everywhere.
It is.
So it makes sense.
It is. You every time that we go to a movie with friends is, at some point I'm like, see, there's a grief piece.
Yeah.
I told you, somebody.
Yeah.
Because it's about loss. It's about life. Life is also about endings and changes and transitions, and how do we incorporate that? How do we reassemble our life? How do we reintegrate the experiences that we've had? In making sense. I love Dr. Robert Niemeyer. I got to meet him last year at a retreat that they put on. Oh, it was awesome. And I like it. And his whole work is about searching for meaning and creating meaning, which I think is paramount.
And so what's that process look like of searching for meaning when things seem meaningless?
Well, okay, so let's go with the first don't say that of yours, right? Which was there's a reason for. In fact, actually, I took a picture for you. I don't know if I had the card when you were with us.
Yeah.
I have a card right outside my door, hanging on my door, that says, everything happens for a stupid reason that's stupid.
Love it.
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
But I think that we try to We try to figure out meaning to it. And the problem is that, you know, we don't do well not having control.
No.
Right.
We don't do, as human beings, we just don't do helpless well.
Yeah.
No.
Okay?
No.
And so we create all of these reasons, you know, with this assumption that there's, you know, this grand scheme, this grand plan, or, you know, that we're being watched for. Now, there's a difference between, I have to say, I am so incredibly grateful now for every loss that I've had. Is I have lost every member of my family, my immediate family growing up. And I get a little teary.
Yeah.
And I miss them. And they are the reason why I do this work.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that my mom and dad had a third child when I was 7, and she died 4 days later. And we did not talk about that. They remember them coming home, giving me an explanation and telling me and that, you know, she had been handicapped, and you wouldn't have wanted to save her, the doctor to save her, because she would have been mentally handicapped. So you should be grateful.
The shoulds are
right.
coming hot.
At least.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of that is I feel helpless. So here I've got to give you some reason. Now we can create.
It's when other people find meaning for you and then like force it on you.
That's what feels so terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wonderful to make it yourself, like for you to find meaning in your sadness or your grief. But it's so hard when other people are like
trying to shove it,
project something onto you that doesn't feel like it fits even.
Exactly. And it comes out of their helplessness.
Yeah, of course.
Here I've got to find something to make you feel better. And it's like, actually, that just makes us feel more isolated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, coming from a family where you had a loss very early in your life and it wasn't really talked about too much, what it was like as an adult to go through the loss of your own mom and what that looked like for you.
I think it wasn't until after my mom died, my father. So the rule became after Jennifer died, the rule became we move on. And we get over that, and we don't talk about it. Okay. And I love how these rules, you know, those what I call survival, you know, core beliefs that we learn are never direct. They're always implicit.
Yeah. Yep.
And which are the hardest rules to change. But I started realizing, wow, you know, in looking at my whole history of loss, where I would say, oh no, the only loss that I've had was the death of my mom. And then to look back and go, oh, wait, wait, there were all these other losses of that my family, they were never the same. My mom and dad were never the same after that. And I have to say, I don't think I realized the impact of that until many, many years later.
Yeah.
Well, because no one talked about it. Like, how could you have known?
Right. And they probably didn't show it.
Yeah. And so after my mom died, I remember my dad and I sitting together, and I had gone back east to go take care of her. She died very quickly. I stayed for the rest of the season. She died the end of October. And I remember at one point I was like, okay, Dad, we got to develop, we got to have a deal. Okay. I'll stop telling you to move on I'll stop telling you to slow down if you will stop telling me to move on. Yeah.
And how did he respond to that?
And he got remarried 10 weeks later.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I was telling that story several years ago, and Mark looked at me and he goes, honey, 10 what?
Yeah.
And because I had said 10 months later. And he was like, honey, 10 what? Holy moly.
10 weeks.
Gosh, not even 3 months.
I know. He was so scared. He was so overwhelmed. He was 64 years old, which is actually a year younger than me right now. And we had a neighbor that had been friends with my family, and honestly, the joke had been for years of, oh, you know who's going to come running first. And, you know, my dad would be like, go, oh, no. And he got scared. And so they got married weeks later. And so
another huge layer of grief.
Yeah. Exactly. And my brother had been diagnosed with melanoma 6 months before my mom had been diagnosed. He had surgery.
Oh my gosh.
They had said, no, he's fine. He's okay. Within a year and a half, his cancer had metastasized to 18 different spots in his body. He went through experimental treatment and actually lived another 5 more years.
Okay.
4 or 5 more years. But everything, you know, everything changed. And how do you get your bearings?
Yeah. Did that change the way that you thought about grief and your grief practice?
Everything.
Yeah.
That changed everything, because all of a sudden the world looked completely different. You know, I don't use the word denial. It's one of my other reasons, several reasons why I don't subscribe to doing the 5 stages, is because denial is the wrong word. You know, it's not like people come in and say, well, everybody, you know, said that my mom died, but I don't think so. It's like, not unless you're Norman Bates and you got mom stashed in the attic.
Right.
But there's a surrealness to the world. Like everything feels completely different. You know, and that you see everything completely different.
Yeah. Well, it's like hard. I think you can logically say something and then to fully integrate that logical piece, it takes so much time and effort. And that's not denial. That's just, what do I do with this? That's
real. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you've seen anything or read Mary Frances O'Connor's The Grieving Brain.
I don't think so.
Oh, it's an awesome book. And Andrew Huberman, did a podcast
on grief,
specifically using Mary Frances O'Connor's work.
Yeah.
Explaining that internal mapping that we do, which was beautiful because it explains that surrealness of, wait a minute, but they were supposed to be here. And, you know, and it's based on time, proximity, and place.
Yeah.
That you can, you know, kind of internally map and realize, oh, you know, my loved one is here or there. And so, but there's all of a sudden they don't know.
Right.
And so that is such a beautiful explanation of that concept of surrealness. It's something that I like sharing with clients, especially in the very beginning, where they're like, I feel crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, the person's going to step, you know, back in right away. Yeah.
And we talked about this a lot in the beginning. I feel like with both of our losses was like, the world just goes on.
Yes.
You know, it's like your world is completely different, but the rest of the world is the same.
Yeah.
And expectations of you are the same.
Yeah.
And all of that just stays the same, but then you're completely different.
Right.
And it's so hard to like integrate those two versions of yourself, I feel like. Yeah. I mean, I'm still definitely struggling with that. But
aren't we all?
Yeah, I think so.
I you know, that's, you know, part of such of the isolation of, wow, wait a minute, but I experience the different. I see things differently. They mean different things to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even with my clinical practice after I lost my first daughter, it's like, how can I just keep working the same way I've been working? No, now I need to work with other parents who go through the same thing. It's like, okay, what do I need to do differently to make life feel okay again?
Right. Yeah.
And it's usually on us
to find some purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Because what really we thought was important before, all of a sudden is
changes.
Wait a minute. Now it doesn't have a whole lot of importance. I like to refer to that as your give a damn is broken.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Give a damn's busted.
Yep.
And that's a natural part of grieving significant losses, and not something that we have to consciously say, okay, we're going to work on you caring. It's like, well, how about we look at all the stuff that got ripped away? that you got robbed of.
Yeah.
Of all of, I like to, whenever I have, when I start working with somebody from the beginning, is I'm listening for all the unfinished conversations. I'm listening for all the unfinished business, all the conversations that we didn't get to have, that we didn't even realize that we wanted to have, that we thought that, that we wanted to hear, but we do later. And it's not like we don't know what's really important, but we keep putting it off, thinking that we have time. And then all of a sudden
you don't.
Holy shit, we don't.
Yeah. So what do you do with the unfinished business? Like, you're looking out for that. And then what does that tell you?
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
Actually, I have a whole method to my madness of looking at, I have everybody do a timeline. Here, let's just map this out. Because visually, it's a loss or significant event assessment, but it's also treatment at the same time.
Right.
Here, let's visually map this out so that as we go along of, oh, wow, wait a minute. I have had many people who have looked and said, well, no wonder I started drinking at 12 years old because this, and this happened. Well, yeah. And I'm listening for how isolated were they as they were going through these significant events in their life.
Right.
And then we start looking at, identifying a relationship that they want to work on. And then I start having them look at, what's the stuff that what's your responsibility? What's kind of your side of the street? Which is, doing a list of all the stuff that you'd want to say I'm sorry for, that you're willing to accept responsibility for. And actually, the other day I was working with somebody who said, I'm not sure that I really mean this. I was like, I don't give a shit if you don't mean it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's okay. And you don't have to apologize to the person, especially if they're still alive.
Right.
This is just about, here, you own your stuff. And then we look at the stuff that, especially in really conflicted relationships. And I think that's a really tricky grief.
Yes.
That's a really tricky grief, especially I'm doing more.
Right. If like the relationship was complex before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Look at estrangement. That's huge grieving experiences, but we don't always look at the grief and people go, well, I just cut them out of my life. Guess what? That doesn't all of a sudden turn off all of the pain. And so those in other relationships, it's really important of, here, let's look through and acknowledge all the stuff that the other person did or didn't do or said or didn't say that you felt hurt by.
Right.
And develop a ritual of releasing that.
Sure. Yeah. So the focus is it's like all on the person because that's all you have to work with.
Exactly. And then the third piece is appreciations and gratitude of, and I don't start with that, especially when there's a lot of
complicated.
We are so not going there first.
Yeah. Well, that's like human grief, because I know you also do pet loss grief.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I do the same thing with pets because it's a relationship.
Yeah.
Now, there's not usually as much in the category of what they did that you were hurt by,
right?
Except the 5 pairs of shoes that Floyd ate of mine.
Yeah, I'm like, no, all the food that my dog has stolen over the years, I feel a little hurt. How much money I've had to spend on rebuying food.
Exactly. The rugs that got ruined.
Exactly. Okay. But there tends to be a lot more guilt, which really is not about malicious intent to have harmed the person, the relationship, the animal. It's really the helplessness. You just keep going back to helplessness that we just don't do well with. But the helplessness is if only this, if only that, all of that is fueled by this fantasy. And we never fantasize, the if only isn't that it would have been worse.
Right.
That's not the purpose.
No.
Right. You know, our brain creates, you know, the stuff that,
we did wrong.
Totally.
It would have been fixed.
Yeah.
Right. And the problem is we ruminate on that, which our brain thinks is a good thing because we're like, look, I've solved the problem. It's like, no, now you've just tortured the crap out of us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But there's a lot tends to be a lot more of the, I'm sorry, I didn't bring you to the vet earlier. I'm sorry I brought you to this vet. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do this or this or this. And there's a lot of appreciation, and animals often carry us through really difficult times in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, and so that acknowledgement is really important, and creating a ritual to release that and to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
I love Terry Daniel is a friend and colleague of mine who's a chaplain, and I love that ritual is a really, really big piece for her. So she'll help with, you know, helping people create rituals. She loves burying stuff under a tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah.
And for the pet loss, I'm just curious, did your own pet loss motivate you to include that type of, I guess I didn't really think of pet grief initially as something, but now, I mean, I can see it.
I have to say,
totally.
The first golden retriever we had, Floyd, after Floyd died, and I'd already been doing a lot of grief work, and I went up to Oregon to go visit our brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and who, by the way, all four of us, my husband and his brother and sister-in-law, we're all trained in grief.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
And nobody mentions Floyd when we get up there, right? Except our 3-year-old niece.
Wow.
Oh.
Because 3 and 4-year-olds are just, you know,
Yeah. They just say things.
they're present and they're
so perceptive.
The best grievers. And she said, Aunt Debbie, are you sad because of Floyd? I was like, I am, honey. I am really sad. And
so sweet.
and I went and did, actually I borrowed my sister-in-law's office. I was like, I have some writing to do. And I went and wrote out a letter to Floyd, and I have to say I was much more present for the rest of that whole trip.
Yeah.
When we acknowledge the grief.
Exactly.
Often we don't even realize how preoccupied we are with that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Mark and I went through infertility for almost 9 years, which included miscarriages, included birth mother scam that was awful.
Wow.
Horrible.
And somebody who in the family who agreed to be a surrogate for us volunteered. And after the third time that it didn't work, I was a big puddle.
I'm sure.
And by that time, I think that was like in the 9th year. And by that time, I knew I had to do this work out of my own preservation. You know, I tell my clients from the very beginning is I will not ask you to do any work that I haven't done myself. And when I do it myself, I say the F word a lot.
Yeah.
I really that potty mouth anyway.
Yeah.
Okay? But, you know, I hate doing this work myself. And I know that I have to do this because otherwise I'm not able to be present.
Sure.
I'm not able to do good work, but I'm miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was really, God, I remember the time that I finally went, okay, I need to go attend to this. That was, God, that was really hard.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was so incredibly releasing. And helped me. And I knew that I needed to do that because that would give me more clarity as to, do we want to continue?
Yeah.
Or do we want to make a decision of not having any kids?
And what did you
able to make more peace with that?
Yeah.
And so we decided not to have any kids.
And I'm assuming during that time that wasn't something people talked about.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. In fact, actually, I was in an infertility support group. And it was when one of my sister-in-laws was trying to be a surrogate for us. And they were coming down to Los Angeles for the weekend. And I had told my group that I was wondering if she could come to the group. Oh my gosh, the group leader shut that shit down right away. Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Did not have the courage to talk to me. I approached her afterwards. Can we? Well, we just don't do that.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
that makes it feels like you're doing something shameful by being there.
Absolutely. And I know that she was trying to protect,
of course.
Is everybody else going to be mad at this person who comes in who's really fertile? And it's but again, that addresses, if you're addressing all this grief, then that would help.
Right.
Then, but that wasn't. And I decided, I was not a safe place for me to come back to.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of judgment, and coming from that discomfort of, I don't know what to do with that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've had so many different types of losses and so many different layers. I'm wondering when obviously I worked with you and trained with you. And so I'm wondering when you bring on new associates now, which I know you still do, what are the sort of main things that you're wanting them to take away with them, from that experience of working with you and with the grieving clients that you guys have at your practice?
Here's what I look for is people who are willing to have open hearts. You have a beautiful open heart.
Oh, she does.
Yes. Because the intellectual stuff, we can teach that.
Yeah.
Okay? It's the, are you willing to really look at grief? Are you really willing to be able to see our own losses in so many different ways? But I get really, really excited. You would love the group that we have right now. We have 4 people. We do group supervision.
I love it.
As we did.
We sure did. Yeah.
For you guys. And so I had them come in. I was like, you know what? If you guys are willing, up to you. If you would like to come in extra, we'll pay you to, we can do 2 8-hour, really heavy weekends, days of just applying the information to them.
Yeah.
And that I paired them up and they, went into different corners. And so, I really wanted to respect, that their own process, because they're associates, not clients.
Right.
But that, I got so excited. Somebody came up to me afterwards and said that I feel like I came out of these trainings a better, a more solid, grounded therapist.
Wow, that's amazing.
I was like, yes, I danced the whole time.
That's exactly what you're wanting.
Yeah, because when you get it here, then
it clicks.
Yeah, then the intellectual stuff is really easy to pass on. When I teach practicum class over at Pepperdine, and so every semester, first class, I say, so you've signed up for a practicum class. Perhaps unbeknownst to some of you, I know some of you have a heads up beforehand, but you have also signed up for a grief class, because I can't teach this stuff without talking about grief and how loss and grief and how that influences everything that that the person brings with them.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure some people are like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to say 99% of the time, I will either get, yeah, I know. That's why I signed up.
Oh, okay, great.
That's great.
Or, oh my God, wow, that's great. Every once in a great while, I'll meet with somebody after class who'll be like, shit, my mom just died. I'm fucked.
Yeah. So it's like hitting that chord because they're going through something.
Yeah. And so, we've talked about that of, you let me know if you're ready. This is the reason why I tell you guys up front. Okay.
Yep.
And I had one person who hung in for a little bit, and then because of a lot of other stuff that was going on, she took a leave for the rest of that semester.
Yeah.
And she's kept in contact with me.
Yeah.
Just to let me know how she's doing.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah. But I think that we really, we can't do this as an intervention.
Yeah.
We can't say you're going to do this.
Yeah.
It's if you are willing to see that and open up, which doesn't mean that we disclose and share everything with our clients. But I will say I can't work in this field without being willing to be vulnerable.
Sure. I always say, like, I have to self-disclose way more with my parents who terminate their pregnancies than any other. It doesn't work.
Right. Because you're asking them to be vulnerable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And get naked.
Right.
You're like, no,
I can't just watch you on the sidelines.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Because otherwise it's you're a voyeur and it doesn't feel safe.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
You're doing such wonderful work. And
oh my gosh, I love it.
It's like it's just so amazing that you're out there, not only just seeing your own clients, but also teaching others how to do the same work. And I'd also love to know more about what are your offerings? Because it sounds like you do training. So I'm sure so many people are going to want to know how they can get more of you.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Oh, it's okay.
Totally fine.
It's a washable rug.
It's a ruggable.
I have one of those. Aren't they great?
It's a washable rug. We're all good.
So I have a self-paced interactive course. I'm so excited. It's a new platform.
Okay.
And it makes learning all this material. I used to do it in PowerPoint, and I used to do it in, Kartra, and then I was asked last year to create an interactive course for the California Alliance of Family and Children, and so they had shared this platform, which I was able to get myself, and it's so cool. There's quizzes, there's mix and match, there's just it really is much more engaging.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so it's self-paced, but I spread it out over 6 months because there's just
so much information.
6 weeks. I call it a deep dive. One day I wanted to call this, everything but the kitchen sink. But I do it because I've had people who have taken the course over the last few years who they almost never get through all the material within 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like, here, let's do it over 6 months and see how that is. And so it's going really well. We're in our second month.
That's great.
Yay.
And people can join at any time. And then I have an accompanying consultation group that once a month that goes along with that. So
that's great.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah. So it's trauma month this month. So suicide, addiction loss, violent loss. I don't know if you were here. Did you meet Krista?
I don't think
Parker?
so.
I think she may have come in right after you had left. She is licensed now, and she interned with us for a couple of years. She is doing her PhD. I'm so proud of her. She's doing her PhD program up in San Francisco on social justice,
cool,
and psychology. And I just did a video and put it in the course on violent loss, violent crimes loss.
Wow.
Yeah, and working with marginalized populations, with BIPOC, and so
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Next month we'll do adult loss, which is about adult losing a parent as an adult, which is the most expected loss.
Yes,
and the one that throws people off.
Interesting.
Like, wait, yes, but I knew ahead of time. It's like, no, it's really, really different.
Yeah.
And
what do you think makes that the one that feels so unexpected? Even though it's coming at some point.
But, I think, look at life insurance commercials. Life insurance commercials say, if you die. It's like, no.
When?
Okay. But we go, if.
Yeah.
Right? And so we don't want to think about that. We don't want to go there. Even if it's expected. And even when we know ahead of time, it's still very different emotionally.
Sure. It's like kind of funny because you were talking earlier about how the stages of grief, like denial and things like that, don't necessarily feel like they fit the bill when you're actually grieving.
Right.
But when you're not grieving, I actually feel like you are in denial. Like if you aren't aware of grief, it's like you're like, oh, if I die, if something happens, it's like, no,
good point.
All of those things are going to happen. Like that's the denial that this isn't going to touch every single one of us.
Yeah.
And we can like somehow be spared from it.
Yeah.
Which would be nice, but
it would be
it's
nice.
just
not that easy.
Not the way the world works.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a big course.
That's very, very exciting.
So, yeah.
And how can you just, we'll put your details in the episode so people can find you and search for you.
And find you on socials and all the things.
I encourage people. I am so glad that you guys are in the group. I started in 2018. I was like, we need a Facebook group that is for clinicians who want to learn more about grief or want to talk more about that. And so that's Private Practice Grief.
Yeah. I actually remember I posted something in your group around my grandmother who she was she was diagnosed with cancer. Well, we actually didn't know. She didn't get tested, but she was going to die. And like, I didn't know if my grandma wanted to know this, but no one was going to tell her. Yeah. And I remember getting advice of like, what do I, on a personal level, like, do we tell her like what? And it was just such a rich conversation. And I brought it all back to my family of like, okay, here's all the things.
Here's what everyone says.
Neat. Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, it was so helpful. And I'm like, wow, we need a Facebook group for just people in general.
Yeah,
grieving.
Right. Not just clinicians, but like just the general population.
Exactly.
That can be your next feed.
Yeah, that's your next project.
I've assigned it.
We have 4,200 people.
Wow.
All over the world.
It's amazing.
That's like crazy.
That's
really
so
is.
crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, because I think I was working at the practice when you started that.
Oh, yeah.
That's like when you got into all the online stuff, the online courses and like doing things online.
Yeah.
And
I forgot about that,
I remember like being really excited about it. And honestly, when you went through your loss, Erica, I was so grateful to have had the training I had from you.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't gone through any like actual lived loss experience that in that way. Yeah. And so I was like so grateful to have had just like the knowledge and like just to know like the little tiny things of like, hey, I'm here.
Right.
Hey, I'm here. You know, just like showing up and then being able to like refer you to that group when you were going through your stuff. And I just feel like it's been such a like amazing resource, and it's stuck with me both in my personal life, but also very much in my professional life. And I feel so confident working with people who are going through loss because like it's happening to everyone. So I think it like really shaped me as a clinician. So I was so obviously when we decided to do this podcast, I was like, I have to ask Debi to be on. I don't know if she will, but I had to ask you because you're someone who's had such an influence on me as a person, as a clinician, and just the way that I work with people and see the world too. Yeah. So our final question for you is, what would you tell Debi in her darkest moments who felt like, I don't see a light at the end of this tunnel. You've shared like a lot with us about all these different types of grief that you've experienced. And I don't know which one of those feels the heaviest or felt the darkest for you, but what would you, your version, like the version of you now, what would you say to the version of yourself?
That's a good question. Somebody asked me something similar last week, and I initially said, "Run," and then I said, "No, as I wish that I had trusted my intuition more. I wish that I had paid attention to and taken better care of my heart."
Yeah.
That's so powerful. Like, listen, like, best. Young.
Yeah. That's I think that's our best tool. There's a whole lot of intellectual stuff, which is good stuff too. But I think the more centered we are in our heart, for me, that changes everything.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's listening, who's like, I want to be centered in my heart and I want to trust my intuition, but I don't know where to start.
Right.
What would you suggest? What are some things that people can do to feel more like, I don't know, attuned with themselves, and what's helpful when you're in those dark places?
I think having conversations within yourself of who, be more aware of what do you need to say to people who aren't even in the room anymore. Okay, because those conversations go with us of, oh, I'd say this, and this. I think really paying attention to what is our pain telling us, what's our discomfort saying, rather than trying to shove it down or trying to work, try to fix it. It's like it's there telling you something,
right? It's like it's serving a purpose.
Yeah.
So to sort of lean into it.
Yeah.
I mean, Jordan and I were talking about this before, of like, when we get physical pain, those are warning signs, like pay attention. And this is emotional pain.
Exactly.
Pay attention.
Right.
So it's like, what is that pain telling you?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
This was so lovely.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Maybe we'll bring you back sometime.
Yeah,
I'm sure people are going to I want to know more.
Yeah, they're going to want to know more for sure. All right.
Thank you.
So that was I thought it was a very interesting episode. When I talk to other clinicians and professionals, I feel like you don't go always that deep. And so sitting down with Debi was really refreshing, that you could go that deep with another provider and talk about things on a personal level and a professional level. And I just learned so much from her around how she integrates her own grief into her life, how it's impacted her as a clinician and a supervisor. And I just felt it was really refreshing that you could let some of those guards down and just be really genuine and authentic. And I could see that that's how she shows up in her work with her clients.
Yeah, I just feel like that's how she shows up in the world, she's just such a genuine, kind person. And I feel like she's just always doing things in service of other people and helping others learn and be better. And yeah, I mean, it's anytime someone in my life goes through something hard and they have grief or trauma to work through, that's my first thought. I'm like, I want them to see Debi.
Yeah.
Just because I know that she's oh
yeah, I would be
best.
Oh, I could see you, Debi.
Yeah, she's just the best.
I could get some of that.
Yeah, I feel like she just is able to break things down in a way that's like so easily digestible. And these are like really complex existential like concepts. And I feel like she just has this way of making it feel not so scary. And she definitely did that for me when I was first working with grievers, because it does feel intimidating and a little scary. It's not like there aren't like therapists everywhere that are just like working with grievers. Like it's a niche for sure. And I think it's because people don't really know what to say around death, even clinicians. And so it's like to have a space that's dedicated to just that. I like think when I first started working for them, that wasn't why I started working for them. It wasn't like that I was drawn to them because of that. But I'm so grateful for the experience, because I think it's just informed so much of like who I am as a person, but also the way that I work. And like I try and channel Debi in my sessions, like, you know, just being like really in tune with the client and really genuine and trying to like understand the layers of their loss, and that there's loss in everything. And so I think it was cool it was like a very full circle moment too, to like be able to like reach out to your supervisor who like taught you so much and be like, hey, like, would you be willing to do this thing with me that I'm trying to do? And she was wonderful. So willing and lovely.
And then came bearing goodies from her garden.
I know. It was so kind. And if you're wanting to learn more about Debi and what her and her practice have to offer, you can go to calabasascounseling.com and you can read her bio. You can get access to some of the different training options that she has. If you're on Facebook and you're a clinician, you can join Private Practice Grief. There's like 4,000 plus members, all clinicians across the world, I think, who joined this and are learning about how to work with grievers. And if you want to follow her on social media, you can find her at Debi Jenkins Frankle.
I feel like this is okay. And we are just so grateful that Debi joined us today, and I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we did.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Grief Street. We put out new episodes every Monday. If you'd like to support us, give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel to find the video version of our episodes. Please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We would love to hear from you and get some feedback. If you'd like to contact us, please email griefstreetpodcast@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 508-474-3378. That's 508-GRIEFST. Our theme song is Hepcat Jive, courtesy of purpleplanet.com. We'll see you next time.